Welcome to Momentum Monday. Today is December 15, 2024. Howard, how do you feel about 2024 so far?
Well, I mean, I was just writing my post of some predictions, but I feel, well, I mean, good year for me. Sounds like a good year for you. Get the baby. We had good health in our family. We spent a lot of time in Coronado. Let's see what else. Markets crushed. I think a tremendous wall of worry. And for the first time in a couple of years, I think there's some optimism about well, the politics are as divided as ever. There's some optimism, and especially in the Middle East, which is continues to be a mess, but especially with the war in Syria. But I think when we entered 2024, it was not a pretty sight with Ukraine war and with the war in the Middle East. And as we enter 2025, it feels like, well, the war has continued to rage. We're closer to an end. And so things can always get crazy as you get towards the end of a war, but I don't think peace was on anybody's mind as we enter 2024. And I think the markets benefited from that wall of worry in the election. Uh, People were just underexposed to the markets because of the war and worries about the election. So they missed an incredible rally, right? And now that the elections are done, and that there's a kind of a tide, like a turn in how the Middle East could play out with Iran being exposed and Syria in play, that that news may change the tone of the market in 2025. So I'm trying to, you know, figure out what that looks like. And you can see here, like, for example, the defense stocks,
Yeah,
Trump has been talking about, no more war, and the markets are listening. You may not like what you hear, but the markets are listening to that drumbeat.
we're pulling back.
And,
Yeah,
yeah. But I also think what's interesting, Ivan, as you go into 2025 are interest rates. Like if you don't, they
exactly.
continue to just uh, worry me because they can't seem to, Well, I saw the tail, like I didn't, so they actually still are. Yeah. I mean, I worry that the rates are not coming down.
This is basically the main worry, I think, right
Yeah.
now. And
Yeah.
the main reason behind a divergence that we're currently seeing in the market, because yes, the Nasdaq 100 is at all-time highs. The S&P 500 is basically at all-time highs. But if you look at the equal weighted S&P, it's already at its 50-day moving average. So there is a
Yeah.
significant divergence. We are back to a market that is held by a few mega caps.
Yeah. Tesla's
Um,
holding up 70% since the election. So if you're an indexer like me, you own it. I don't necessarily believe in it, but you're lucky to own it here in the queues. Um,
yeah, the
so I
Q
work,
is the
right?
S&P.
Like on Friday, MicroStrategy, which isn't necessarily a company at this point, it's just an asset, no different than gold. And a leverage one at that, the way he's doing it, entered the QQQ, right? Is that a tech
Yeah,
stock at this point? Obviously considered a tech stock, and then you've got Axon, which I love the company and I'm long, but now they added to the S&P or the QQQ. I don't know, it's a
yeah, and the
400%.
same with Palantir. They were the third name that was added.
Yeah, and then Palantir, now they add it. So I'm saying it's all market cap weighted. I'm getting nervous that
Yeah,
the companies being added are so much in momentum, kind of like. So again, this is why you index. It's indexes are a momentum kind of is or a unique form of momentum. But I'm not comfortable trading into these stocks by owning the indexes up here with the rates the way they are. So I'm definitely peeling. into this strength.
So when you're peeling, what are you doing with the
I'll just
cash?
take off some of my long-term indexes and hold some cash.
You just hold cash. Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
So
we'll invest in startups and other things. Like I'm not trying to time the market, but I just don't like what I'm seeing in, I follow the indexes closely, but I follow some of the stocks close enough to know that with rates where they're at and with so much good news priced in, and the fact that peace is getting priced in. There's no such thing as peace anymore, right? You live in a world where everybody's fighting online all day. So there's no such thing as peace. There's this what I would call relative peace. And I think relative to the last 2 years, we're much closer to peace than where we were 2 years ago. So less people using social media. I mean, I hardly use it. More people kind of just tuned out to the noise. And doesn't mean the noise is going away, but I just think less people are looking at it. And so I worry. I hope I'm wrong. And the market looks strong. Price wise, there's no reason like to be nervous. The prices are good.
yeah, it
And
depends what you own, and obviously you have to pay attention to what's working at the time. And last week we had a few like interesting news-driven moves. For example, Google that was forsaken by everybody. They reported a major breakthrough in their quantum computing chip, broke
mm,
out to new all-time highs, and now it's back in play. Even though many people thought that under the new administration this stock is going to underperform, but technologically they're entrenched in so many important, not just entrenched, but they're leading in so many important industries like self-driving, quantum computing, obviously user-generated content like YouTube. That it's if the general market doesn't doesn't break down, it kind of to me doesn't make sense for Google to be underperforming by being the cash machine they are, but being much cheaper valuation wise compared to other mega caps, and just by being a leader in so many important sectors. So yes, they're back to all-time highs after that quantum computing news. And by the way, when that news was reported, very few people paid attention that actually Google used an Nvidia platform to reach that level. So yes, Nvidia is at the center of everything. Their technology is at the center of everything, even though lately their stock has been struggling. It seems to me it's been used as a source of funds, as other people uh, are just selling a little bit and using the funds to allocate them to more speculative areas of the market and maybe some other semiconductors name. For example, we had Broadcom, huge guidance, huge guidance here, broke out to new all-time highs. And let me show you a monthly chart of Broadcom. This is since 2009, so basically $1.50 split adjusted. Now it's
yeah, 100 bagger in
225.
public
So
markets. Yeah. I guess there was a one maybe trade where you got stopped out of this trend in 2020
well,
COVID.
during COVID, yeah, when everything was like limited
But
for a
just
couple of
classic
weeks.
trend following, you'd be in this thing. This is where the SMH
Yeah.
probably been that and Nvidia have been carrying the SMH, but you can look at some other companies making up for this Marvell, which I'm long and we've talked about
Yeah,
here.
Marvel and Avag were two
I
main
mean, go look
players.
at the monthly on that breakout. It's not the same type of trend, but obviously benefiting from AI.
Yeah.
And a huge base going back to like 2007, 2008. This is a big rounded base. So I'm trying to do more work here. It's $100 billion company, but there are new leaders stepping in. But at the same time, like I look at Biogen and some
And
of the
Avago is now a
biotechs.
$1 trillion company, many
Right.
times.
So there's still
I
a lot of
mean,
opportunity
growth.
here. This is just I feel like, it's a really tough market because it's the haves and have nots. The bigger companies are getting bigger. You have a government in Trump that, you may love it or hate it. You got to read the person, and the person is transactional. And like Elon Musk made a great transaction, right? The stock is up. 70% since
Back
the
to new
election.
all-time highs. Yeah.
Okay. He made a great trade. He went all in on Trump. At the beginning of 24, the stock was in the doldrums, and that's what you do. He's a great leader for his own shareholders, and that's his job. To get the stock price up. Palantir, same thing. What's their job? You tell a great story and build a great business. And when you get both right, your stock goes higher, right? That's a peace company. That's the way they're presenting themselves, Palantir as well. It's a peace company,
Yeah.
right? They're for American peace, right? And so that is the story that's trending. Elon Musk, call him what you want. I think you'd have to say that, when he speaks, he's for peace. You can hate Twitter, and how you vote with hating Twitter is not using it. But his interests lie in growth, right? War does not serve him well because it takes people out of Tesla's a consumer discretionary stock. So if people aren't buying things. So again, this goes to this whole peace trend, right? Like everybody thinks, so there is some truth to this idea that like love it or hate it, like there's people in the United States that would just prefer to see peace. And yes, they will line their pockets with peace. But if we go look at the defense companies, they have lined their pockets with war. So there's always somebody lining their pockets.
Okay.
And
So
we choose our monster.
yeah, another interesting fashion trend right now is for companies to come up with press releases and say that they just bought some Bitcoin. They're building their strategic
Yeah,
Bitcoin reserves, and I have a feeling that in the next couple of months or more, we're going to see more and more companies uh, coming up and revealing
yeah.
that.
I would tell people that the one to watch would be Square. He's been a Bitcoin maximalist. He just hasn't marketed it. And he's all over the place and not as good a leader as Elon Musk as a public company. But like, if that strategy continues, he's changed the name to Block so he owns a lot of Bitcoin. He's a Bitcoin maximalist. So that one would be the closest to it. But there's going to be many people that tell a better story than Jack for sure. But
And maybe this is the reason why the Nasdaq 100 decided to include MicroStrategy
yeah.
in the
I
QQQ.
do
And
think the biggest trend though will be this peace chatter, and fix, let's just go for growth. The only way to pay off this debt, as Jeff Bezos says, when we look at Amazon stock, is growth. So even he's falling in line with Trump saying, listen, we can't cut our way to, you can't just cut our way out of this deficit, cut spending. You're going to have to grow 4 or 5% a year. So that kind of speak from across the fangs has the market up. Uh, the
yeah,
question is, once everybody buys into this, which seems to be happening, will the markets top? That's my gut feeling. And I'm watching rates because, again, with rates, not coming down, right? Ivan, like there
yeah,
is
they're not
extra
coming
pressure.
down despite the Fed planning to cut more. They're
Yeah.
not coming down. And as you can see, the US dollar has been extremely strong against all other
And
major
then I look at biotechs again. There's a lot of negative rhetoric from the government, from what's his name and crazy man RFK.
Kennedy.
But if you look
Yeah.
at the biotechs, it's a mess. And look at companies like Biogen that were like leaders not that long ago, have just completely given up the ghost.
Yeah, it's an interest rate trade.
Yeah.
Biotech, small caps, financials,
I don't think tech's
housing.
immune from that. I just don't think tech's immune from that in the end. So,
Yeah, of course it's not, but there are select pockets that are working right now
yeah.
in tech. And
What do you got? What are you looking at? Anything smaller or, with the
smaller, I think
Eagles pulling back, what are you looking at?
some of the smaller drone plays are interesting. I I mean, obviously they're not profitable yet, but they've been leaders since the elections, and there's some interesting speculative price action in some of those names that it could be in play in the next few months. Obviously, the quantum computing company, they've been hot even before that Google announcement.
Yeah.
But
And this is, I've talked to Michael Pry. If you want to watch our Trends with Friends, we're going to talk a lot about quantum computing. It's still decades
Yeah, so
away.
there are a few players. Obviously, Google is the main one. IBM, in the small ones, Rigidity, Yonkyu,
Yeah.
and
But
as
so
I said, and
generative,
they're all
yeah.
using Nvidia's platform. So Nvidia is at the center of everything. So to me, it's very interesting to see how Nvidia is going to continue to act. As now it's closing below its 50-day moving average. A lot of people are short. Um, but they're still the growth leader, they're still the technology leader. So it will be really interesting to see how it will react here on a pullback to 130, maybe a little bit deeper.
And
Um,
remember, now the CEO is much like Benioff, right? Like he's going to change his tone from growth to talking the stock, right? Like he has to. His company's so big, it's much more personality now, like a Benioff, like a Elon Musk. It now comes much more about story, and he has many levers to pull. So again, shorting these type of things, again, I think as we head into 2025, even if it's a bad year, shorting is just so difficult. So I think it's more like trying to understand how the game is played, and Jensen has a million levers to pull,
yeah.
media acquisitions with this market cap. He has many stories to tell, like Palantir. So I think the short sellers just continue to just think they have this edge, and there's just so much capital, and I think people are still so underinvested in stocks with all this capital out there that these charts are not good enough. You really need to see broken stories, uh, you know. But again, the people are going to trade this, and a lot of people love shorting this, trying to catch a top. So we will see. Okay, that's all I have.
Yeah, I mean, let's wrap it up with this. Obviously, we can talk about many other
One other
things.
thing I was going to say, Ivan, is the same thing's happening as the QQ. If you look at the QQQ, it's like 100 stocks or what is it, 10 stocks probably account for 40% of this. Same thing's
Yeah,
happening in my industry, venture capital. Um, what is it? 70% of all the money raised is like 20 funds, right? And there's thousands of funds. So if you think about it, it's the same things happen in the private market as the public market, as the money's been corralled around the storytellers in the largest funds. And I think that can continue. Again, that's a trend that can continue. Now they have the money that can continue to work for a while, but that's not the way it needs to work for for there to be like a good distribution of returns. So um, and that can go on for a while. These big companies,
yeah, but the
big
people who invest in those funds, Howard,
what's
they
that?
the people who invest in those funds, in those private funds, they already have too much money that they know what to do with it. So
I
they don't
understand,
really
but
care.
it leads to again, all I'm talking about,
Misallocation.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the game. It leads to misallocations of capital. And the long term, there's not that, there's some, we call it, there's like some drawbacks to the strategy because you can't, the money just gets poorly allocated as it did in a lot of these social companies, and it continues in AI, right? Like how many AI companies need to be funded, but and you're already seeing it slow down in the LLM. So again, this is kind of a really tricky environment when so much capital is allocated to so few companies. Um, and it could be great. We could just see a great, a sell-off in the mags and outperformance in the equal weighted next year. So it's a really an interesting point here with the equal weighted pulling back to their averages as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, buddy.
All right. Let's get back to it next week. All right.